I was recently asked to make a check-in sign for a local business, and I've made signs for them in the past, so I'm always happy to help out. This is extremely simple. There's really not much going on for this sign, but I thought I'd show a very basic sign and the settings that I use to prepare this. First thing we're going to do, this is in Cut 2D Pro, and this came out a few months ago. I'm still getting used to some of the new icons and the way this is set up, but we're just going to create a new file and then go from there. As Cut 2D Pro opens up, this is a job size for something I was working on the other day, so this is not the size of our material right now. First thing we're going to do is just set up our job size, and the way that my CNC is set up might be a little bit counterintuitive with these two settings. Normally width and height would be pretty self-explanatory here, but the board that we're using is about 5.5 inches wide and about 48 inches long. So we're going to change these here to more accurately reflect what we've got on the actual CNC bed. And as far as the thickness goes, it was supposed to be about 3/4 of an inch. It's a little bit bigger, so we're going to let this stay at 0.77. We're using inches here. If we were in metric, we would obviously hit this radio button. And this is just a preference for the setup on the CNC bed. Everybody uses a different area. Some folks really like to use the center, depending on how your station is set up. The bottom left works as well. For my setup, I like using the bottom right. So we're going to click OK with this, and then we're into our design screen at this point. And with this being Cut 2D Pro, I'm still getting used to some of these new icons here. Still basically the same tools, but these do look a little bit different. Since this is a very straightforward, simple sign, this is just going to be text. And we're going to go over to the Draw Text icon, and we're going to pick our font. A lot of the signs that I use or that I make, I use the Copperplate Gold Gothic Bold, and that works really well for the machine. I like the way that it looks, and for the end mill that I'm using, the 1/8 inch end mill, it seems to make some pretty clean designs that I like. So we're into here for our text window. This is a check-in sign, and we're going to keep this capitalized. And then we're going to do a couple arrows here. And when I'm doing arrows, there's lots of ways to do it. We're going to put 2 off to the right here, because that's the direction we're going to send folks in. For our simple sign here, we've got our letters that we set up on the previous page. And what we're going to do at this point is we need to click on our letters so we can set up our toolpaths. We are still in 2D view. Go over to our toolpath information. And instead of doing a profile cut, which is when the router would just go along the lines here, we're doing a pocket cut for these. We're not going too deep into this, about 0.15. Our end mill is 1/8 of an inch end mill. And if we go to edit, we can see the particulars for this. We're not pushing this very hard. Feed rate, we could go faster. Plunge rate, we could go faster as well. And we could go deeper if we wanted to. But for this, we're keeping it kind of conservative, not pushing it too hard. I'd like really clean cuts with this. For our passes, we're doing 4 passes for each one as it goes down each time. We're not doing a raster. We're just going to leave it on climb. And everything else here is pretty much defaulting. We could give this a name if we wanted to as well. Go to calculate, and we can see what our sign looks like at this point. We can kind of move this around. This feature right here is new to Cut 2D Pro, and it's kind of useful, kind of getting used to it. Fewer keystrokes to make it do this on this version compared to the other version. We're going to close this here. This is our pocket here. These other two were some samples I was doing, so we'll just delete that one, and we can delete this one as well. So this is the only toolpath that we're running for this. This is where we send it over to either a USB drive or to the actual machine, and then we save the toolpath, give it a name, and then take it over to the CNC. There's our basic check-in sign. Doesn't get much more straightforward or simpler than this. And this is pretty much straight off the CNC. Very little cleanup so far, just ran some sandpaper across the top. And we're getting ready for some finishing. I do want to clean up these edges just a little bit by hand, which is usually what I do. And then we'll move on to our finishing stages. A quick tape up job just for the larger areas. So when we run this through the planer, we can keep a little bit of the paint off those planer blades. We are using Ace brand glossy enamel banner red paint for our check-in sign. As we enter our professional paint booth here, an inverted trash can on the side yard. Just keeping it simple. And we've done 2 coats at this point. I'll do another 1 or 2, and then we'll run it through the planer and start cleaning this up. Just before we run this through the planer, after a couple passes through the planer, we've got our sign ready for a gloss finish. Just putting a few coats of Helmsman spar urethane finish on here, and you can see the initial pooling here inside the letters of some of that spar urethane, and on first glance it seems like that's not a great idea. But the way this works is it dries clear, it sort of self-levels, it seals the seams inside these corners really, really well, and then it makes a nice scoop. So when rainwater or moisture hits these, it just kind of scoops out and just runs off. So nothing is getting really stuck in there. And in past experience, it's worked really well. And this has held up for a lot of years in pretty tough environments. We'll put another coat or 2 on this, and then this will pretty much be done. After a couple hours, a very short period of time, the extra clear gloss spar urethane that was in those corners has all cleared out. It's all dried. And again, it makes a very nice tight seal for those inside edges. So we've got a little bit more water protection and a little bit more of a shelf for any rainwater or precipitation to just kind of roll off out of here. And I've really liked the way that Helmsman looks. So this sign is done. As far as mounting this, there's a couple options that I have in mind. I think what we'll end up doing is using some 4x4 posts for the corners and make this really kind of present well. Fun project. Thanks very much for taking a look.